All right, CJ and our guest, Patrick, we are live. Welcome into Humanity Hub. How's everyone doing here today?
Doing great, Austin. Hello, Patrick.
Hi, hello, Austin and Chris. I'm happy to join you. You know, a new place to stream. You know, I like to just jump around to somewhere else. So I'm glad to have a new home.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. Now, you're with Remap Radio now, but you've been all over the place. Your career, you've written for and broadcasted for so many different places, right? In your long storied career, I would say.
Chris, yeah. you undersell this. I go as far back with Chris as I go with anybody. You know what I mean?
True.
Like Chris and I go as far back as like your online handle, like Super Pack, like I IRC, vid games, like way in the mid 90s. I was 11 years old going to the EGM offices. I am 38 years old now. So just to give you a span of the time that we're talking about. I mean, like the luck that I had in I've told this story many times before, but usually I'm telling it to other people as opposed to being in front of one of the people that was involved. The luck I had to like pick a website that had a chat room that was kind of attached to another, that was Gaming Age, GA, attached to another chat room, Vid Games, that just so happened to have a bunch of editors from Electronic Gaming Monthly that just so happened to have an office like 25 minutes from where I grew up, and thus would essentially, much more than talent, lead to any of the career that I had afterwards is a wild sort of thing.
And so crazy that we're still here, still talking about video games, still playing video games so many years later. You're making me feel old. I'm sure you feel old just talking about that time.
They still, you know, the thing that I can't quite shake is, you know, you get older and it's like, oh, like it's cool to ask for my ID. And now, Chris, it is decidedly uncool that they keep asking for my ID. But it works out for my wife because she's a couple years older than me. Like, Katie, I don't think you're watching this. I think I'm cool. But then they always ask for my ID and then look at her and go, "Oh, ma'am, do you want to show us your ID?" Yes, I do. Yes, I do. But yes, we have been doing this for a long time in a lot of different forms. I have managed to, by hook or by crook, to stay in the media side, even though I've had to kind of reinvent what that means a number of different times. And then you have made the familiar jump a lot of folks in our orbit have to work on the other side, help them build these things.
That's true. Yeah, and it's a fun jump. It's still in video games, so hey, it's still talking about video games, just particular kinds of video games. In this case, humanity today. But yeah, let's talk about your current place, Remap Radio, and you also have a Substack that you talk about gaming and parenting. So why don't you just kind of tell us a little bit about that stuff?
Yeah, so for the last almost 7 years, I'd been an editor over at Waypoint, which was a gaming website that I was helping run under Vice. And then they ran into, we'll call them financial troubles. And I no longer had a position over there, but I was very fortunate that we were able to essentially adopt. We were actually legally able to take the business, the subscription business we were running within Vice, take it out, form a new legal entity, get some paperwork done, and we relaunched what was Waypoint under a new thing called Remap. And we've been running that for a couple of months with myself, my colleagues, Rob Zachney and Ricardo Contreras, who were my colleagues at Waypoint as well. We're very excited. Just this week, we launched an actual website. I know people aren't doing websites anymore. They're not writing words anymore.
But it's important when social media is kind of in disarray. Websites can kind of be important, right?
They can be. And, you know, I think it's, you know, in many ways, probably in a way that you probably have a kind of a distinct fondness for magazines and things like that. Like, I grew up, my career is around websites. Like the way I found my career was like going to these like kind of communal places where it's like for me, it was like going to a website called Gaming Age, like when I was a kid, just stumbling into that and hanging out in those forums, those chat rooms. Like those became like lifelong friends and people that I, like yourself, like still know to this day and have like intersected in my life in so many meaningful ways. And so that's kind of when I get wrapped up in a website, and it's why we like wanted to have one for Remap eventually. And so Remap it's a lot of podcasts, it's a lot of streams, it's a lot of talking about video games. It's also now increasingly about, I don't know, like I think I'd like to talk about sports this week. All right, time to do a sports podcast. Like, hey, like I think I need to buy a car. Like, all right, we're gonna do a podcast about life stuff. And you know, I've essentially, my career has sort of spanned something very different than what you and I sort of like started out as, where I'm known for talking about things that are more than just what I got started in, which was video games. People get very invested and interested in the people that are talking about maybe they're like whatever drew them to that in the first place, which for me, for a lot of people, is video games. But then, well, I'm sure that person has other thoughts, and so Remap is kind of built around games and other thoughts. And the other thing that I launched at the same time, because I wasn't sure if Remap at that point was going to have a website or any writing. It's like, well, I still want to write in some capacity. And I found myself increasingly thinking about the intersection of video games and technology and my children. And when I would look up, hey, like what kind of reporting is being done in these spaces? Like how much time and energy is being spent from this particular angle? I just didn't find a whole lot of that. And so my thought was maybe there would be an audience for writing and reporting and observations about video games from the perspective of a longtime games reporter that is just amateurishly raising two children. I feel much more confident in my ability to report a story than I do to manage the tantrums of a 3-year-old.
For sure.
You know, I'm just, you know, I figured that one out in much the same way I didn't expect to still be writing about games decades in. I just try to get day to day with the 3-year-old, and just, we're here for another beautiful day. What are we mad about this morning? This morning was because the mermaid costume had a tear in it, and Mom and Dad tried very hard to fix that before we went to daycare. I think we were.
Now,
okay.
Is this a Halloween costume that is also being worn as daily clothes, or is this?
No. There are separate parts to the Ariel costume, which is her Halloween costume. But in the lead up to Halloween, we are very mermaid centric, and we're trying to navigate how do we put on mermaid centric clothing that doesn't make the people that work at the daycare very upset at us, because why is she coming wearing this to the
right. Now, are your kids excited for Mario Wonder on Friday? Do you play games with them?
I do. You know, it's interesting because games are all around them. Games are not new. They are not special. They are not like a forbidden fruit. They like so much of their life is gamified, and then that means that video games don't really stand out. Like they just have access to so much media that games are just like one thing in a smorgasbord of like, what could I do with the next hour of my life? Whereas, you know, for any of us, like, I don't know, what's on the TV? What are the VHS tapes that we own? Like, what did we rent from Blockbuster? Yeah, I didn't like that game. Like, tough. Like, that's the one you're playing this weekend until we take it back on Sunday afternoon. And so for a while, I kind of actively resisted is not the wrong word, but I was definitely not pushing games on my kids. Part of that was because my job was already full of video games. It's what I think of when I wake up. It's what I'm doing when I go to sleep. And like my children not also being similarly obsessed with it, like it seemed like maybe what if I just didn't think about video games for like a little while? Like, is that okay? But you know, like to no great surprise, like eventually they started getting interested. And even though it wasn't something I was sort of actively pushing, as like, here's a thing we should do together. It's like they see what you're doing, and my kids would see that I was playing games a lot for work. I was playing it for personal entertainment, and so yeah, we used to like a lot of people started down the path of playing a lot of Nintendo games, and so we are excited for Super Mario Brothers Wonder, except we have, you know, we can't get this patched in now, but we have already had one tantrum in the house from the younger one, because so I was on a call with Nintendo a couple of weeks ago. They were showing me some of their holiday stuff, and during the Super Mario Wonder segment, I asked, "Hey, so this is a question that I'm asking, but mostly for my children. I know that Princess Peach is a playable character in the new one. We're very excited. Everyone's excited for Peach. Can two players be Peach at the same time?" There was like a long pause. It's like, no, but we do have Princess Daisy. And I'm like rubbing my temples. I'm like, I know what you're saying. Yeah,
you're gonna have to start selling this now to your kids.
So I can't.
In advance.
I'm
Daisy's
very
cool. Hey kids, Daisy's awesome.
So I'm very particular about sharing. Otherwise, if I wasn't so particular about sharing videos of my children, I would love to have to share a video in which I filmed myself trying to lay the groundwork for this. It was like, hey guys, like next Friday, Dad's gonna get the new Mario game. Yay! And Princess Peach is a character. Yay! But we're gonna have to take turns being Princess Peach. And my 3-year-old, she's like 3.5. Like she had a marker in her hand. She stands up and she goes, "No!" And she puts the cat back on the marker. Bless her heart. She put like, that's more than I expect from her usually. Puts the marker back on and whips the marker at the ground and stomps out of the room. And like the whole time, my oldest, she's 7, like also bless her heart, was like, but Daisy's really cool. Like she's a cool other princess. Now, granted, does she have an ulterior motive? If she can get her sister to like Daisy, then she gets to be Princess Peach. So it's just being nice. Oh, okay. But also, you know, it works out for her if the Daisy thing pans out. So we are very excited fortunately, the 3-year-old doesn't have a lot of interest in games right now, so I think she'll be okay with like, hey, look, just let your sister play Princess Peach for 2 minutes, and then she's gonna go, I don't know how this works, and then you can be Peach for the next hour. So I'll report back on how that goes.
Well, good luck with that. Oh my gosh, I'm lucky I only have one. So I only have to,
there you go.
There's no fighting over Princess Peach.
You can be Princess Peach. You can be Daisy. You could be Yoshi. You're good. I mean, I'm sure you're gonna be Nabbit. I mean, everyone's fighting over like who's gonna be Nabbit. Like it's the thing that everyone's saying in the streets. Nabbit. Nabbit.
They want to be Nabbit. Yeah, they want Nabbit to have their own game. Yes.
Maybe you could get away with saying they're both Princess Peach and see how that plays out.
Well, I wrote about this recently at Crossplay. So we have played a lot over the years before my daughter really understood like navigating 3D spaces. Which ultimately she was like, Roblox is what taught her that with like virtual analog sticks, and then it translated to like playing games with the controllers with more finely tuned mechanics. But we played a lot of New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe on Switch because it's just moving left to right. I can kind of help carry her through the stages. It's just like way less friction in learning just how does a video game work, how does momentum work, how do physics work. But you can be Mario, Luigi, Toad, Toadette, and Nabbit in that one. Mm-hmm. But there's a crown in that game that drops, and when you get that crown as Toadette, you can become Peachette. Which I don't want to get into the lore implications of the Peachette, but for my daughter's purposes, that's Princess Peach. Like if we squint at it, if we look in the wikis, like it's not Princess, but it's Princess Peach. But it's a power up, and like all power ups in a Mario game, when you get hit, you lose it. And so for years now, I have not been playing New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. I have been playing a version of that game where I am trying to unearth a power up, navigating that off like wall bounces so my daughter can grab it, and then desperately trying to stop an enemy from touching her so she can be Princess Peach for the 45 seconds it takes before a Goomba runs into her.
That's like a whole new level of difficulty. That's above Souls-like. That's just Yeah.
Yes. So that's what just being a parent is like. There are the rules of the game, and then there are the rules that your children dictate to you, and you try and find your way past both of those.
It's true. Well, I want to get into some humanity now.
Let's do it.
Because that's why we're here, kind of. Not only to find out more about your content here, but also just talk about the game a little bit. And for those who are joining the stream that may not know, Humanity is an action puzzle game. It's out on PS4, PS5, and Steam. There's a demo on Steam, and it's also part of PS Plus Extra and Premium on PlayStation. So if you have that, you can play it for free. And we're going to start kind of going through the story campaign here, which I know you played, Patrick, and we're going to continue here from where we left off. So this is the end of sequence 4. We have met the others, and things are kind of coming to a head in this particular stage.
The last straw. Very dramatic.
The last straw. This game is full of drama. I highly anticipate the HBO series.
Strong, I don't know if you saw The Leftovers, but this, I could see a little bit of that here. The others, one of the factions in Lost.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't worry. I find like any possibility to make a reference to Lost.
I've never put that one together. That's a new one for me.
I'm rewatching that with my daughter for the first time. So she is really loving it, and she doesn't know any of the stuff that happens in later seasons, obviously. And she has so many questions, and I've had to talk her down. Like, we're not going to find out all the answers to these questions that you're asking in season 3. So temper those expectations.
Wait, have you finished season 3?
We are close to the end of season 3.
Oh, the finale. I'm not going out here to dropping Lost spoilers, 15 years on, but the end of season 3, that is one of my all-time favorite TV moments.
So
we have
good.
to go back as an all timer that I will never forget.
Absolutely. But Austin, here you are driving the gameplay here. This is a puzzle stage. You have to get our humans out. There is an onslaught from the others. Oh, very much like Lost. Coming, a war. We're on the precipice of that.
All right, so catch me up. I don't think I made it this far in the story.
Sure.
Who are the others? Like, what's going on? Why they got these big lightsabers? Like, why are they mad at me?
Good questions. Good questions. So the others are a rival faction. You are sort of given no concrete information about them. The only thing you know is that they're a rival group and they want to steal the Goldie statues and take them for themselves. So your humans don't speak the same language. There's no communication between the groups. There's just this sort of, first of all, like friendly rivalry, and then here is when they arm themselves with these batons and really kind of start to come at you.
This is terrifying. I don't like it. This is an upsetting amount of others coming at me here.
It's kind of a large wave, yes. And now things have boiled over, and that was the final stage in this sequence. But then they arm themselves even more. Oh, what are we going back to?
I was thinking about opening up Clean Sweep because I think it talks about how the Goldies, or not the Goldies, the others also enjoy the Goldies. They're a bit materialistic, and we're just fighting over these giant gold objects.
Understandable.
Yes. Or just as video game players, we want those bonus items, and the Goldie are bonus items, so we're going to fight over them. Yeah. So yeah, in a stage like this, you are really kind of going up against the others, and this is the first sort of act of aggression that you do towards them, in that you blow them off of
oh my
the ground where they stand. So that you can get past with your
so they
Goldie.
also infinitely spawn similar to like your own faction. Like that is part of these like competing tides of characters.
Yeah, and you cannot control the others. Like you can lay down directions for your humans, but the others do not follow them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they're uninterested in the dog. They're just like they're cool. They're cool with the big glowing dog. Like not a problem for us. We just want the big glowing guy. But the weird spiritual dog. Like keep going, buddy. Like we're happy to watch you go about.
That's right. Yeah, and I think this is one of the interesting aspects of humanity's stories, because you have this rival group. You have this sort of, you're being told that this is an enemy, but you don't have any evidence really to support that. Through what you're seeing on the screen. You're just kind of blindly, okay, I'll lead the people and get the Goldie to the goal. But then you start to question, is what I'm doing the right thing? Are these people really bad? Like, what's happening? And then they take up arms. So then you have to take up arms with your people. And I think there's a lot of really interesting themes within the game that are not necessarily explicitly spoken, but are kind of there if you want to read into it.
Yeah, I always love that stuff in games that are otherwise seemingly straightforward, or like you can kind of like take or leave how deep you want to get into whatever storytelling is happening there. But if you just want it to be the puzzle game, it can just be the puzzle game, or what have you. Like those are some of my favorite types of games. They find unique ways to integrate forms of storytelling, in a medium that is still trying to figure out how does that stuff fit. And I thought, what I'd seen of Humanities was actually like surprisingly elegant, as opposed to being like really, our story is really important and we want to make sure that you know every beat and all that. It's like, it's a little more, hey, like how interested are you in reading into this? Otherwise you can just focus on getting the gold check marks and all the cool bonus stuff.
It is a little more subtle, yeah. And by design, it's a little more subtle for the people who are playing and experiencing the game to kind of take from it what they want to. Now, this is a boss stage. You're up against the Green Core. So you have to destroy these green glowing orbs. And of course, it's an action puzzle game, so it's also a puzzle. And Austin, I think, knows what we're doing.
A little bit. I actually haven't done this one in a while. I think we... first off, this stage has seen many iterations, right? So I feel like I've only completed it once or twice when it was actually completed in the
I like the idea of
cycle.
Jumping into a level, but then implementing a solution that no longer exists because the version of the level you played changed.
That did happen during development. We'd be like, "Oh, we didn't realize this level was changed," and then you almost because you have the muscle memory, start laying down commands. It's like, wait a second,
right? We had that on our last stream with that Ballroom Blitz level. I wasn't sure what the, we played all these levels so many times, but a lot of them had changes at the very end, and then they still feel new to us because our muscle memory is not quite there. But that's how I feel about this stage right now.
We spent like 20 minutes on a level called Reverse Course in a recent stream where it's like that was a level that was added very late in development, so I hadn't played it like dozens of times like the other stages. So when we got back to it, it was like, what's the solution?
I almost imagine that has to make it potentially harder to figure out the solution because you have too much information. Like you can't read the level like your average player would, where it's like, oh, let me take in everything. It's like if you know 99% of it, but then 1% changed, I imagine that can make it a little bit challenging to parse out what is the 1% that actually changed.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. And then Humanity is a game that has a lot of user-generated content as well, and on occasion we do themed workshops in our Discord where we encourage players to like make alternate versions of the story mode stages, which has been really fun actually. They've like interpreted the story mode stages in different ways, and so you go to those stages and you're like, okay, I have in my head this is the solution, but no, wait, it's not that way, it's completely different too. So that has been interesting as well.
I will say I am struggling right now.
See, now I said I laid a rhetorical trap for you.
Yeah, this one I tend to like circle up the humans and then like unleash them like a wave upon the others. And that seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, there definitely are multiple ways to solve these kind of stages, but yeah, I like this technique as well, where you kind of just loop up a bunch of humans and let them go at it. But yeah, I assume this stage in particular has more than one possible way to go about it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and during development, we weren't even sure like exactly what solution the developers or the original designers of these stages had intended. So sometimes we would come up with a different solution than maybe the original designer thought of.
Oh, would you like would that stuff then feed back into the development loop where it's like, hey, here's like a recorded version of a session of like how we arrived at it, and that would end up informing some of what would be like start as unintended solutions and then be adopted as intended solutions, as opposed to like a problem with the design of the level?
It did, yeah. Oftentimes that would happen, and then on occasion, because we did a lot of user testing with this game, because everybody approaches each puzzle differently, and you can cheese a lot of things in Humanity, like you can brute force some things. So when we found like particular exploits, the levels would often be redesigned to take those possibilities out. But sometimes also to encourage those possibilities. So there are a couple still that have encouragement to do that stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be such a fine line. Like, I've never made a game. Like, I don't think I have the brain for it. But when I've thought about the ones that must be like more challenging than others, like just as a game developer, level designer in a puzzle game, like trying to take into account just how brains work, you know what I mean? Like what, like different levels of frustration. And because it's interesting, because with puzzle games, I've always described it as I like them until I don't, which is to say, with like more mechanically focused games, I have a high level of confidence that you know, I can push through, I can learn more, I can get past the task. But oftentimes in puzzle games, I just end up feeling kind of dumb. And then it's like, if I just stare at a puzzle long enough, I don't know that the solution's going to come to me. Whereas like a tough boss fight or a platforming sequence, it's like, okay, well, I practiced this enough, I can get my fingers to go in the right sequence of events. And so I like in games like Humanity where even the fact that there are alternative solutions or multiple solutions like affords or gets around some of my most frustrating feelings, which are like, am I trying to solve this, or am I just trying to get in the head of the designer to figure out what they want me to do? Because those often feel like different things than, it's like, are you solving a designer's puzzle, or are you solving like a puzzle that the player is trying to come up with a solution for?
Yeah. And we really tried to minimize that feeling because we know how frustrating it is for people to like not know the solution, right? And so there's a solution video available from the pause menu in each stage so that you can see it if you want. It doesn't show you Goldie collection or anything, but you can at least see, okay, what you're kind of supposed to be doing and then interpret it from there. Because you're right, it is incredibly frustrating to think, oh man, I'm so stupid when playing this level.
Right, and I know the designers don't want me to feel that way either.
No,
no. So it's yeah. I'm always impressed. You know, like two games that I've played recently that fell in that. Viewfinder was a game that came out earlier this year, and then what was Cocoon that came out a couple of weeks back. Those are both games that, like, from start to finish, just operated right on my brain wavelength. And I was like, this probably means that for people that really, really, really love puzzle games, it's probably not going to be hard enough for them, because if it works for me perfectly, then I know what that's going to say about people who like really adore puzzle games. But then, you know, there are games that like Viewfinder did a great job of, hey, like the mainline path is going to be pretty approachable. We want players to like kind of always be pushing forward and feel smart as they're doing so. And then if you want like these alternate puzzles that are like, hey, hard versions of these mechanics, they're kind of off to the side here. And you end up kind of satisfying like a lot of different audiences at once. And I just imagine that is particularly hard when doing a puzzle game, just because people are so different in their approach.
It is, and you make it a really experienced puzzle player in a user test that breezes through everything, and then you start second guessing, like, well, did we make things too easy? And then you'll have somebody else come through who like struggles at even some of the earlier stuff, and you're like, well, no, I think this is pretty balanced. You kind of have to find the space in between those two types of players, and it is a serious challenge.
No, I imagine. I saw that when you look at a spoiler video, it logs it for the player.
It does.
I don't know if you can see that, the like broad metadata of like how often people. I was curious if you had a sense of how often people like engage with the spoiler videos, like what their relationship was with stuff like that.
No, we don't see it, although like just from watching streams, it does seem like people don't watch them very often. They do want to solve the puzzles themselves. And we'll hear from people on Twitter who are like, well, I watched one on this one level because I couldn't get it. And it's like, oh, that's why they're there, and that's why there's no penalty for you to watch them. Yes, the little number in your stats screen increments, but that's the only way. You're not going to be shamed for watching them.
That's cool. I also feel like someone that says they watched one of them, I don't believe you. I think you watched all of them. That's like, what is the like when a doctor asks you how much do you like normally drink, and they like double it. So like, you're not telling.
Or at the dentist,
the
floss,
dentist,
right?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. And I feel like the moment you say like, I looked at one spoiler video, it's like, okay, well, you probably, it's fine. You looked at the handle, but I think that's really cool because, like, there are different ways of marking success for the player, both like from one end of the spectrum to the other. And I think, especially just because like different puzzles can scratch brains in different ways, punishing a player because they just want like, because maybe all they want is like a hint of like, okay, I'm just completely approaching this wrong. So it's one thing to watch an entire solution. It's another to do the equivalent of just getting a hint of like, how am I even supposed to approach this? And then maybe that unlocks the whole broader solution, which is often how it works for me. Is that, you know, it's similar to, you know, growing up on the playground before you had, you know, game facts and walkthrough videos. It's like, you know, oh, I can't beat this boss. And it's like, well, I don't need you to do it for me, but like, what did you do? Like what was effective for you? And then I'll go do it myself. And I feel like that's always a tricky part of puzzle games in particular, is how do you help the player without just giving them the solution? Because they may not be interested in like knowing, hey, I just do this and then it's over. They just may want to like break the log jam in their brain where they just can't look at the puzzle a new way anymore.
Yeah. The good thing about that with the solution videos is you can watch as much or as little as you want. You don't have to watch the whole thing, so you can get pointed in the right direction and then immediately stop and go right to it, which is nice. But during development, we had a lot of different explorations on how to solve this, right? Early on, there was a concept of skip tickets, where you could earn like tickets that will allow you to skip levels. But then we kind of realized, well, if a player uses them, they will have skipped learning a concept in a previous level that they're going to need for the next one. So then they're going to be just as screwed as they were before. So that's no good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the trick, because puzzle games, just like most other games, like they're all building blocks towards like a greater challenge. And so, you know, it's one thing to have a player elect to move past something, but you hope they at least internalize the lesson of what happened, even if they didn't get there the intended way.
Indeed. So we're skipping into community content here. We're working without a net because there are no solution videos in the user stages section.
Woo! Oh, this is exciting for me then. Like, here we go.
Kind of have to figure it out, and some of these are quite challenging. But so we have a playlist here for the community stream. If anyone watching wants to check it out, it's within user stages and humanity, and we've got kind of a range of things here. There's like I know back in the day you used to play a lot of DDR, so we got a rhythm game level in here. If we want to check that out, it's very DDR-ish.
Let's do it. That is. I definitely remember coming to the EGM offices and playing DDR in front of a bunch of people. That was I had a real full circle moment where at PAX this year I gave a talk, and as part of my parenting newsletter, and as a reward for my children patiently sitting through their dad talking about them in front of an audience of people, there was like they called it a retro room, but you walked in and it was basically just like a bunch of like more modern arcade games, and specifically it was a lot of like music rhythm arcade games, like, and stuff I had never seen before. Like, that scene is still kind of alive and well, and to some degree in Japan, but it's extremely difficult to find venues that have. You can find DDR machines every once in a while, but like finding some of the more esoteric Japanese like music games is just, you're not going to find them, and they're all here. It's like, clearly It's just someone's collection. And so we were playing a couple of those, and then they saw Dance DDR, and my my oldest like wanted to play it with me, and I was like, wow,
throwback.
Damn, this is really my life coming like all the way around, which is like, kiddo, like a couple of years from the age that you are at now, I was like making a name for myself over gimmickly playing Dance Dance Revolution on like maniac, difficulty levels, and now I'm here giving talks based on that career that came out of those years, and we're playing DDR together. It was cool. It was, part of the reason I like having kids and didn't really push games on them is like I want them to find their own interests, and like I think it's cool to be interested in different things than the things I'm already interested in, and let my kids guide me there. But that definitely like pulled on my heartstrings a little bit to like have this overlapping moment with one of my children that was definitely like an echo of a different era of my life for sure.
Love it. Of course, Austin just breezed past that rhythm game.
I know.
Sorry,
like,
I think that was
heartfelt commentary, talk about my kids and my past. It's just like, well,
That one usually takes me a little
Beat that
longer,
level.
but yeah, I guess I'm a pro at that level now. I have played that one
Yeah.
a fair amount of times.
Well, that was an example of like somebody making a different genre type in humanity, like making it more rhythm-based.
Do you
stage. And
have?
then-
I feel like the arrival of any game with user-generated content is the forced creation of 1-1. I assume you have a Mario 1-1. Okay, I feel like
we of course have a Mario one.
That was one of the first levels I made personally.
There you go. Okay,
it was on
alright.
it was on an older
okay,
build,
yeah.
but it did exist. So it was one of the
Mario
OGs.
1-1,
Yeah.
and then very inappropriate things. I feel like those are the like the hallmarks of any user-generated content is the two of those appearing on the first day of being live.
True. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's puzzle gamers in general, but actually we haven't had too much of an issue with like inappropriate content. We do have like a moderation system and a moderation team that goes through the UGC because you kind of have to have that, right? Because people are going to create that stuff. But we haven't had too much of an issue with it, which is
Nice.
surprising and kind of heartening, especially considering we're a PS Plus extra and premium title.
Right.
So I thought, oh, people are just going to make all this stuff. No, they haven't. So
That's awesome.
not to jinx it, this stream.
We definitely braced for impact, and
We did.
were pleasantly surprised. We expected a lot more in that regard of levels that
Indeed.
were unsavory.
Yeah, but then we see levels like this, which are very platform focused and kind of using the mechanic of diving into the people as a way to like platform between these spires. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people definitely pushed the mechanics of the game within UGC.
Yeah,
It's kind of a grind right here.
and that's been something we've just been amazed to watch happen week after week. Like new people come into the game and combine the mechanics that were in there in different ways that we had not seen before. So
Right.
that has been incredibly amazing to watch because, you know, the story campaign is 90 levels and was, you know, bespoke, like telling this narrative. And then you have people like take those mechanics and make it their own in various ways, and it's just been interesting to watch. And the mechanics are simple enough that almost anybody can make a very simple stage with this. All you really need are a gate for the humans to walk through and a goal, and that's basically it. And we do get a lot of those stages where it's just the humans walking into a goal and that's the end. But then you get these like amazingly like crafted stages, like someone made the Millennium Falcon in this game, and then the Back to the Future DeLorean, and like there are a lot of really crazy creations.
Yeah, I'm always, I don't have this creative side in, like, every time a game has user generated content or level creation tools, I'm always like, well, I can't wait for someone else to make something really cool. You know, I spent a long time streaming a lot of Mario Maker. Like, that's one of my favorite games of all time. Like, had just an enormous amount of fun with it, and I built one level. I built that when I reviewed the game to make sure the tools worked. And was like, and wrote in the piece, I was like, this is not what I'm here for. I think it's very elegantly made, and I'm glad it exists, but I'm mostly glad it exists so I can see what smarter, more creative people than me will do with it. Which I'm sure has to be a delight for the team that worked on the game to be surprised by the very thing that you made doing a thing that you didn't anticipate.
Totally. Yeah, and I think you're in the majority. Like, the majority of players just want to play the thing, right? And not make something themselves. And in humanity's case, we have really taken that and tried to make it as good an experience as possible when you go into user stages that you're going to see quality content. And it has been a little bit challenging because you don't know at what point in the gameplay somebody's going to go into that mode. Like, they could only have played the first couple stages of the campaign, and then they're walking into mechanics that they may not be familiar with. So we have kind of set it up where the easier stages come first in each playlist so that hopefully people will get the easier side of things. But then there's a difficulty rating for each stage so that if you want that really hard Kaizo style challenge, you can also find that. And there are creators within our community that are super good at only making those ridiculously tough, like must hit all of the timing perfectly types of stages that would probably be completely foreign in the campaign of humanity, but they work in user stages, and there is a player that really appreciates that type of design.
Oh, for sure. I'm the player that likes to watch other people play those types of levels and go, ooh, ah. You know, there were some of my favorites in Mario Maker where there would be, I mean, sure, plenty of like, you know, sort of Kaizo style stages where you're doing mechanics within the Mario universe that are not really designer intended, but then the players create their own language based out of the design and kind of what they find in between the cracks of things. And there would be stages that would like teach you like, okay, so here's how you do this weird thing with the shell. And I remember doing one on stream once, and I was able to do like one of the Kaizo techniques once. And it was like, I did it. I'm a Kaizo master. Like, I'm done hanging out the hat. Like, why go any further? It's only going to embarrass myself.
That's right.
Yeah, those
that's
shell jumps are a bit tricky and take a lot of practice.
Yes.
I haven't gone down that route.
Yeah, I have a lot of confidence in my fingers, but the thing about the internet is that it then you then are exposed to the fact that, well, however good you think you are, it turns out you're terrible. Other people are much better than you.
Yeah.
Was there like in this similar sort of vein for humanity? Have there been? I feel like that platforming one we just saw was a good example of it. But have there been like favorite? Well, this isn't really what we meant for you to do with this, but it's really cool that this is what you're doing with it, sort of stuff.
Yeah. Should we talk about mini Metroidvania? That might be.
Yeah, that might be a good starting point.
So this one, there was a mechanic in the game where you can pick up commands that are left on the ground, and like the first week that the game was available, somebody started off a stage where you don't have any commands. Like you notice at the top of the screen, there's nothing there, and so you have to kind of look at this area and look at where the commands might be and the buttons might be, and then pick up commands that then you can use to unlock more areas and kind of complete the puzzle in that way. But that was something where it's like, that was not intended at all.
That's really neat. That's really clever.
Like, yeah, Austin just picked up the jump command, and that's limited to one use as well. So now you can only use that jump command once. So where are you going to use it, and where are you going to place that?
So this playground here constantly builds on itself with all the, just like a Metroid game with all of the commands that you pick up. So super cool. And yeah, there's no stages like this in the story mode. And even to this day, like, we come across so many stages that kind of just blow our mind. Or last week we played a stage even with this airplane coming down. We saw a new mechanic that we've never seen before, right? And players are constantly innovating on this pretty limited tool set, right, within humanity stage creation. So it's been really cool to see.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you see that's often where you see some of the most creative stuff is like when I mean, even Mario Maker itself is not horribly complex. I mean, it may be a little more complex relative to like what's here in humanity, but like it's still like a pretty limited box of tools, and yet like I would always be surprised by what people manage to. If anything, they end up doing more within the limited tool set because it's like, okay, well, how do I push against the boundaries instead of, I can't do everything, so what can I do within that? And then I think it's where like interesting context becomes important, right? Like chasing a different genre, like a rhythm game or a Metroidvania, like ends up bending how you view the mechanics in a different light.
And we have racing games in humanity, which again is something that never would have thought to see that, and people are able to make that stuff. It's just so surprising and cool, and and then there are platforming stages where people have to jump on. You see those walls there where people have to jump on the exact area of the wall and make like some very precise platforming by running along that wall.
I don't like that at all.
we've had whole levels where that's the mechanic. You have to like very, very carefully
It's very
as the dog run.
yeah, anxiety ridden.
tightrope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see why that was not intended design. I'm not sure that would survive the focus testing phase. I feel like
No.
users would ask for a slightly bigger box to walk on.
Yes. Unintended entirely. But super fun to play. Like even
Sure.
Just amongst the team at Enhanced, just like checking those levels out has just been fun.
Yeah, I guess there's like a school of thought like might as well leave some of these like what could be considered bugs in the user-generated content, right? Because there's like that community that wants to play like really tricky levels and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
many features have been left in. This is called like the
Yeah,
Shiva nose grind right here. Yeah, and there's like some.
Yeah, I remember reading. Reading my own article. I did a piece about Celeste, the platforming game from a couple years back. Awesome game, like my favorite game from the year that it came out. 3 or 4 years ago. And there was a patch for that game sometime in, and I remember reading in the patch notes and being really tickled by it. It was like essentially they had canonized certain speedrunning techniques. Where they had been discovered by the community as techniques that you could do with the mechanics, but it wasn't consistent, like because it was kind of like it truly wasn't intended, and so players couldn't reproduce it with a lot of consistency. So the designer worked with the speedrunning community to ask like, what are you trying to accomplish? We'll just canonize this as an actual mechanic in the game. Like you've come up with it because it was a quirk in the physics and the game logic. But if this is what you're trying to do, kind of like the shell trick, in Mario, let's just make it so you can do it every time, within the boundary box that the community has come up with.
That's really
So that
cool.
was just like a really cool way of acknowledging that, like you said, sometimes a glitch is in the eye of the beholder, right? A glitch is it's a glitch to some people, and is it a bug or is it a feature? And I'm like, well, it depends on who you're talking to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for
Now,
the most
Patrick,
part
do
we've
you have any
embraced it.
games that you feel like you could speed run? Or any games that like when you go back to it, you sort of know it by heart, kind of thing?
I unfortunately live in a world, Chris, where I am shuttled from game to game to game in such a manner that I wish I could have. I mean, Mario Maker, which I played for thousands of hours. I was playing that every day for like the better part of 2 years. I had a real confidence in my so there was not really speed running because I was playing different levels every day, but it was the most I'd ever felt confident playing a game where every time I loaded a seemingly impossible level, it's like, well, I've done one of these jerks before. Like I can do this one. So for me, it was less about a confidence in speed running because I was just so deeply familiar with like one particular game as much as I'd become so familiar with like the physics of Mario Maker itself that I knew I could overcome like a lot of seemingly impossible obstacles, which was cool because you're in a different part of your relationship with games and not in media anymore, but like you end up just having like a very kind of like surface level experiences with games because you're kind of in and out and write your take on a thing and then on to the next one, and it's rare that you end up spending like such an intimate time with a single video game, and that was like one of those rare times where I got to do that, and it was really cool.
Thinking back on that sort of Mario Maker stuff, what are some of your favorite moments playing Mario Maker stages? Like, was there a particular type of stage that you looked forward to, or like a particular use of the Mario mechanics that you still remember today?
Probably my favorite moment was when Mario Maker expanded beyond the boundary box of just the game itself, which was a former colleague of mine, Dan Reichert, who was at Game Informer and then Giant Bomb, and then worked for WWE, and then is now back at Giant Bomb, such as the cycle of life. And he's a huge Mario fan too, and he started making levels specifically to try and break me. And we had we had a competition going with deadlines and consequences. I ended up having to shave a beard I was trying to grow because I could not beat his level by New Year's Eve. On some time, we raised like tens of thousands of dollars for a charity one time during one of these competitions, and it was a real joy. The other one that was always fun was so when I started streaming Mario Maker, I didn't have this policy, and then I adopted it a little bit later. So Mario Maker, comes out before I have kids, or at least the first one does. And so when I started streaming it, I started hearing from parents that they were watching it with their kids. And I don't like go out of my way to swear on streams or anything like that. I try to keep that like fairly chill, but I don't not swear. And then I heard that and I was like, you know what? This seems like a not insignificant number of the audience, or it's enough of it that like I'm just going to not swear, so that this can stay like appropriate for these parents that are watching with their kids. And then that audience grew enough that I asked the parents of the kids in the streams that were watching with me to have their kids make levels, and then I would talk about the levels and not critique them, but like talk like, oh, this is what I find, because these are like it's like 7-year-olds that are sending in stages like what's this is what I found interesting, or I really like this cool idea, and they sent videos in introducing their stages so they could explain what their concept was, and then I would play it on stream. It was just it was so cool to like have these kids like write in or send these videos in with these levels they were super proud of. And then like their parents would send me like reaction videos when like they would see me like playing it like live on stream. Like,
that's awesome.
So yeah, that was a very, very wholesome set of streams that I got to do that I was always very proud of.
That's great. My gosh. I feel like with user-generated content stuff, the creators of this stuff never really see what people's reactions are to their content, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You kind of put it out there and it's in the void, and I guess that's it. Like you never like hear, other than like thumbs up, thumbs down in Mario Maker, like you never really like get enough feedback. So that's super cool.
Well, that's why I was always I'm gonna put this out into the world. I'm gonna vibe it into the world. I know that the Wii U was a flawed platform, let's call it, but it had one of my favorite things of all time, which was the Miiverse, which was kind of like Nintendo's take on a social media platform, in which they like incorporated all the drawing elements of the Wii U sort of like tablet parts of the controller, and so it meant like there were in different elements of the community, like the kind of thing you're talking about, where like how do you get meaningful feedback or responses from people that's more than like likes up and down sort of thing. Like people would leave like elaborate drawings and things like that, and it's just such a neat way of like tapping into the creativity of a community in a way that I'm sure was a huge pain to manage from like a content perspective. It's like, let's give a huge audience of people drawing tools and like let them go crazy. I'm sure that had consequences, and maybe that's part of the reason the Miiverse has not come back. But I thought that was a very cool way of trying to incorporate like the creativity of a community, where that could like, I don't think you could do that in Mario Maker, so it wasn't reaching directly into that, but you could have seen a through line where they could have done something like that. I wish something like that would return there or somewhere else.
Too much of a moderation headache.
Oh, it sounds. I mean, I gotta be honest. Like
at this point,
they you would go into.
If only they'd waited, though, with X blowing up, Miiverse could have been the thing. Forget
Exactly.
Threads and Mastodon.
Well, they kept some of that stuff in Splatoon, I think. I think some of the Miiverse, like, drawing stuff still exists in Splatoon, where, like, if you go into the, like, hubs areas, you'll see things people have, like, said, and I think there's some drawing elements there. And, yeah, like, okay, like, they probably got tired of people trying to sneak in, like, horrible, like, like jokes about things that are clearly meant to try and get around the Nintendo censors. And it's like, okay, I guess I can see why maybe they would move on to a different policy.
Oh, it looks like Austin's about to finish this stage.
Yeah.
Ooh.
We just finished our Metroid game, the unofficial.
Our Metroid game.
Ba, 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 ba.
I messed up
Well,
the
that's
jump.
Zelda, but you know, close.
Same thing. Oh, we had somebody make a Legend of Zelda clone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. I was gonna say, I
this
feel
too.
like that's not gonna be shocking to learn that.
Yeah, like a top-down Zelda 1 type thing where you uncover rooms and progress. It was really, really surprising.
Yeah. We had enough Tetris stages to make a Tetris playlist at some point.
Oh, that adds
Yeah.
up. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Indeed.
All right. Any other stages catch your eye? Let's see, Patrick or CJ. Let's pull up the list here.
Let's see what we
Let's
got.
look at the list.
Got Mothership, Easy. Of course, we always have stages that are called Easy, and some of them are
Easy,
actually
and then
hard.
they're not.
Yeah,
They're
but
the opposite.
I don't know in,
But
in this case, but
I like the one in the upper right hand corner says easy, but then right below it says normal, which really tells me there's a level of deception happening here. Well, I'm a big horror fan. Like, it's October, it's spooky season, so I'm thinking monster moves might be
let's do it.
might be the way to go.
Monster moves. All right.
Sleeping Dog.
Yeah, we
So-
did just add for October, we added a spooky tag
Ooh.
that people can use now. If you want to make a Halloween themed or spooky themed stage, you can now like tag it as such.
You know,
And then
now all you got to
people
do
find
is
it.
get a you know, I think, you know, the Goldies, they seem kind enough, but like you put a Jason Voorhees skin on there, like just march them around the levels here, and like you're onto something.
The stage looks crazy.
Completely different game. Yeah.
Have you played this
looks
one?
interesting
CJ?
though. What's that?
Have you played this one?
I have not. I've not played it.
Yeah, this one has got a lot going on.
Yeah. This is for
does
our
have a lot
diehards, I
going on.
have a feel. But I don't know.
Got like
Sometimes, like when you kick back and play a user stage, it is really fun to try to parse it out and like. You know, I do that pretty often. I'll go on my Steam Deck and just chill while I'm watching TV and try to parse out a stage or something.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and like that easy stage, oftentimes if you create a stage, you think it's easy, but it's not going to be easy when somebody comes to it cold and doesn't know all of the inner workings of what you were trying to do. Looks like it's got a pterodactyl or like a
Yeah.
bird going on there.
We almost have. It almost reminds me of that. I'm surprised no one's made it. You know the S used to draw in school.
Oh
on
yeah,
the paper.
yeah. That was like a skater logo.
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
right?
I don't think we've seen that in humanity. If
I
anyone wants to be
don't
the
think we
first,
have.
the legendary S.
I know exactly. I was not a skater, but I saw that written on a lot of notebooks in middle school and high school.
Yes.
But yeah, to your point, Chris, I thought that was one of the smarter moves that, you know, Nintendo made with Mario Maker, where requiring players to complete a stage was. Now, were there ways around that? Were there, as they call it, dev doors, which are, when used properly, were people putting in doors to just like skip parts of the stage so that you could like refine sort of like tweak elements of it. Like if you were making a level that took 15 minutes to get through, you could use a dev door, which would be in Mario Maker frequently like, here's a hidden block, and then on top of that hidden block is a door that would be unattainable. Like the average player is not going to be able to find or access, but that lets the developer get to the other end of that stage so they can tweak it outside of the editor. But on its base level, I thought it was very smart because it did mean that like, as hard as the level looked, you at least knew somebody finished it. And that doesn't mean you're going to finish it, but it does mean somebody finished it, which was at least gives you a, you know, some confidence of the, if not the quality, then at least the completability of a stage.
That's true. And that's something in humanity, yeah, before you can upload a stage, you have to be able to complete it.
Yeah.
And I think there are fewer dev door type situations in Humanity than there would be in
I feel
Mario.
like the creators most likely move their spawn location or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like super complex levels that have been created, like Clunky's time travel level, for example. I don't know if there was. It's not necessarily a dev door. I feel like they probably just had to map it out.
Yeah, we had a creator make a level where there's a mechanic in the game where you can retry and keep commands.
Mm-hmm.
And so they made their level where you can pick up commands, but then you actually needed to use retry keep commands to finish it. So it was called time travel, and you would have to like unlock commands and then retry so that you could lay them down. And that was also kind of astounding to see.
That's amazing.
That used.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it blew our minds that morning when we were streaming.
It did. Yeah, we were like, what is happening here? Time travel mechanic?
I would get started with that monster moves puzzle, but that seems like that would be that'd be a doozy of a level.
I broke him. I did it. Yes.
And it is marked hard.
It looked like there was some kaiju in there, though. It looked like there was a Godzilla on one end of that. Mm-hmm. Maybe like a UFO going.
Here's Only Up Extreme. This one, who was our other guest?
We've not finished Extreme.
We did want to give this a go at some point, but are you familiar with the game Only Up, Patrick?
Yes. Fill me in one more time, and I'm sure my brain will hopefully do the rest.
Yeah, it was like a popular game on Steam that kind of used an asset library to make paths and jumps and things where you were only going up.
Yes. Okay, yes.
Yeah, the developer pulled it off of Steam, I think. But people have recreated it in Fortnite. I'm sure it's in Roblox as well. But we had a creator make 2 different Only Up stages in Humanity, and one that was tough, but fair. And then this one that is just like mind-breakingly tough. But also very cool.
I think I actually saw a solution. We didn't see this last time, but it's really hard to try to map it out when there's blocks everywhere. So it's really
that's true.
A lot of trial and error here. But essentially, you just have to jump your way all the way up here until you get to the top.
Woo!
Yeah.
To the top.
Woo!
And is the start button at the bottom?
It's at the top. So you can use retry, keep commands, I guess, to get there. But
yeah, tough stage.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, maybe we could try to make a spooky stage before we sign off. A quick one.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, here's our Ooh, I missed a star switch, and as in Only Up, I fell down. Oh no, okay, I spawned up here. But yeah, then eventually you go into old school Windows screensaver mode and try to see your line of humans make its way up here.
Just watch them make their way up. Yeah.
Oh, there's movie text. I didn't see that. Only Up Extreme.
Only Up Extreme.
Very good.
All right, let's see if we can make something spooky.
Yeah. Now you said you weren't much of a level creator, but we're gonna help you, Patrick.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
We're gonna drive. Austin's gonna make a stage here. We're gonna try to do it spooky. Try to make it spooky.
Have a jump scare of some kind, or
a jump scare of some kind.
Well, I feel like I saw the we had the others. They were very scary. I feel I feel like the closest we can get based on the tools I've seen is like you want to be chased. Like it's a chase sequence. Like you've got this kind of this horde like bearing down on you. So I feel like that's potentially a good place to start.
Okay.
I like that. Should we do an others gate and like a limited number of people maybe?
We could go full horde mode and just have a ton of others chasing after you and you have to try to get away.
We could do that.
You can't choose how many others come out. It's just like one
can.
or a flood. How many can you make it?
Choose.
Can you make it one? Can we just make Jason Voorhees one other?
You could have one other. Yeah, we could go.
One other.
Yeah, Jason mode. That'd be kind of fun, actually. Let's go with that.
We can do it.
And we can like map out where our other is going to go, right? Like give them commands. So that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get something going here.
Yeah, and what should we do for the theme, like the environment and the?
Well, it's Jason is usually Camp Crystal Lake, and
Gotta be
so
nighttime.
I would say nighttime. We need lots of forests. Like a lot of times, you're running from Jason. You're hiding behind trees. You're going into cabins. So I think like based on maybe what we've got to play with here, like a kind of forest area behind Camp Crystal Lake is what we're looking at.
Okay.
I like this.
Our
this
winter
is
gear.
already. This is already a great level, and we've only just started.
Yeah. Is it winter or summer?
So are there any other
Super 70s?
Oh, Super 70s is good.
I mean, yeah. Super 70s are underwear because underwear. I mean, look, teenagers be getting up to things in these movies.
Right.
You know, I'm just saying. So, but Super 70s or a lot of slashers in the 70s. So either one's gonna work. But underwear might be the most thematically appropriate for.
Yeah. Now, did you play the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that came out?
I haven't yet. I've heard very, very good things about that one in particular. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but my understanding is that you are a big fan of the like asymmetrical multiplayer horror games. You really liked the Friday the 13th one, right?
I did. I really loved it, even though it was janky as hell.
Yeah,
I loved it, but
it was too bad that one got shut down over all the Friday the 13th is like has so many rights issues. Like it's a total. It stinks because they have not made a new movie in that franchise in a long time, simply because nobody can agree to just take a little less money so everybody can make a lot of money. It's really frustrating.
Yeah.
But I'd heard that game. I played a little bit of that one. I played a little bit of the most recent one I played that I quite liked was the Evil Dead one. I thought that one was pretty fun.
That's another one that's kind of losing developer support, or it already has lost developer support, unfortunately.
It is, yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I think that one is the Embracer Group. So some stuff going on over there.
Yeah,
but that game seemed like very well made, well liked, and part of what I did like about it was that, like when I played a decent amount of Dead by Daylight, which is obviously the most popular of the games in that genre, and that one just has a little limit in terms of like what are you doing moment to moment. And what I liked about Evil Dead the game was like there was like a really fun progression system in like the character development in a particular match, and you had this giant open space, you're getting in vehicles. There was just kind of more to do in between the fighting against the whatever player rolled the dice and became the villain sort of thing. That's what I liked about that one in particular.
Yeah, that one was good for that. I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is good for that too, because you have multiple killers and they each kind of have their own role to play, and you can't double up. Just like that Princess Peach discussion we were having earlier, you can't have two of the same character on each stage. So
look, my children are also always saying two things: who gets to be Princess Peach and who gets to be Leatherface. That's
right.
It's
that's right.
I never know what it's going to be, but I know my children are just going to fight over like who's going to be one or the other.
Man, when I was playing Friday the 13th, I would hear a lot of definite children who were playing that got way too scared while playing, really, and that was always ridiculous.
That's delightful.
You could hear that it was going to scar them for life in their voice. But
well, it's so funny because the gap in my kids right now is almost 4 years, and at 3 you're not scared of that many things. You have a lot of emotions, but you don't really have like defined fears.
Right.
Whereas at 7, my daughter has like pretty defined, fears and things like that. So recently, my wife was out of town. I had the kids, and they were happily eating their dinner. They were getting their time on their tablets, and I was going to watch something on the TV, and I was going to finish up the last 20 minutes I had of the 1989 The Blob remake. Great movie, wildly underrated, awesome practical effects, highly recommended. And of course, even though the children are always begging, like, can we watch this? Can we watch, can we use our iPads? Like, yeah, you know what? You can. Have at it. Dad's gonna sit here and chill, and you can do whatever you want on there. So of course, because I sat down to watch this horror movie, the two of them get down and are like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Dad? What are you doing, Dad? I was like, I'm watching 1989's The Blob, and I'm not turning it off. And if you would like to watch it, you're gonna if you have to sit with me, that's what I'm watching. It's gonna scare you, but Dad is not changing it. You've made your choice. And they're like, fine, we're gonna watch it. I'm like, okay. So I'm just being completely stubborn. And of course, in this particular moment in the film, two children, one of which is clearly not much older than my 7-year-old, are working their way through a sewer. The iconic blob is coming after them, pulls one of the children down, and then there's this horrific but very cool sequence where the kid is trying to escape, but his flesh is melting. He's screaming inside the blob, and my daughter screams, my oldest. She's like, "Why are you watching this?" I was like, "I warned you. I told you this is what I was doing." Whereas my youngest is standing up on the couch going, "Blob, blob, blob, blob," and it's asked multiple times since, "Daddy, can we watch the blob? Get those kids?" And I'm like, "Oh my god.
What have I done?
What have I done?"
Yeah.
But what did I have children for if not to corrupt them a little?
Well, there you go.
I mean, what's the point?
Exactly.
Look at this, Austin. We're checking in here. We got a little cabin.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We have a body of water here.
We have our Jason.
A lake.
Yeah. We're getting somewhere.
Jason, yeah.
And eventually,
Excellent.
this is a fun part, is once you get started, it's hard to get started in something like this, right? But then you start to get some ideas that builds onto it.
Okay, I have an idea. Okay,
Yeah.
So, classic. So in Friday the 13th, famously, Jason Voorhees is not actually present in the franchise until the second film. He doesn't get the hockey mask until the third film. The first movie, spoilers, is about Pamela Voorhees, his mom, and she's upset because her daughter Jason, or son Jason, dies at Camp Crystal Lake. Those kids, they were fooling around and doing their drugs and not watching my child, and so he dies in the lake. He drowns, and then they're always returning him to the lake to return. So could he start in the body of water in our level and emerge out of it?
We could try that. Yeah, I'll give that a go. It's a good
Even
challenge.
if you have to make it a stairs, we'll give
he walks out of the water.
Yeah.
Jason Voorhees an escalator out of there.
Yeah,
I
we could do that.
believe we could do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could also have a
That is a
motorized
definite.
block where he just raises out of the water. That'd be kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, sure. That's great too.
I like that idea.
By the way, this is definitely what the original designers intended.
Yes. I'm pretty
I
excited
gotta
for
call
this.
up Yugo Nakamura and tell him that.
I'm apologizing profusely in advance. Chris is gonna call up, send this link over, and please never send Remap any codes ever again. No early access, nothing. Off the list.
Never. This is the kind of thing we like. This
There
is
we
the kind
go.
of thing,
Excellent.
thinking about a level that would not have been something that we'd normally think of. Let's make a slasher flick in humanity.
Yeah, why not?
I like it.
All right, so we got Jason hiding in the water to start.
Excellent. So what is a motorized block? How does that function in the? I'm starting to catch up on some of the terminology.
So with a block, you can kind of create roots. You could also hit switches to like cause it to do things. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So that, for example, we can add a root. And you can have it loop. You could have it pause. There's a lot of things you could do with this block to make, like, people use it also to make animations like Gundams and stuff like that, which is cool. Could be used for puzzles or platforming. It's kind of a quintessential part, now that I think about it, of like the stage creator and how creative people can get with it.
It took me a long time to use the motorized blocks, I gotta say. Like, when I started out doing stages in Humanity, I started out a lot simpler, just blocks, and then I've graduated eventually, like, incorporating more and more elements to the puzzles that I've made. But very similar to you, I don't generally like make stages.
Yeah.
But like we're seeing with Austin, is able to make this scene pretty quickly. Like, you can actually, because of the simplicity of Humanity with the block shapes, it's pretty easy to like make a puzzle or make something that at least looks cool fairly quickly. It's very approachable in that way. Is that a switch? You're connecting up a switch?
Yeah, I wanted to get a head start. I'm distracted with this Jason animation. I'm about to spend like the whole time doing it, but that's
look, the appearance of Jason in the movie is, I mean, that's like one of the biggest moments. So like the fact that you're spending that much time, like, frankly, I think lines up perfectly with the value system.
Especially if we want it to be spooky here, right? We want that. Yes. We want Jason escalating out of the water here.
Yes.
Plus, you can have the motorized block move slowly out of the water.
Yeah.
Just the speed of it, and really fine tune.
Let's do that. Speed. So 0.5. We're gonna go as slow as possible.
Perfect.
It's gonna be an epic.
Yeah.
You got to give people time.
Yeah.
That's why he's so scary. He doesn't run. He's just inevitable.
That's true. Now, with the spooky season coming up and Halloween almost upon us, I gotta ask, Patrick, what kind of candy do you give away at your house?
Oh, everything these days.
Do you already have a plan? Do you already have a thing? Are you the full candy bar house, or are you like?
No,
we're gonna do.
I think it's always cooler to have more candy than bigger candy. I mean, it's neat for the kids and I remember this when I was, I wonder, Chris, if you ever had the same experience where it's like you'd run into like a friend group while you're trick-or-treating. They're like, yo, that house over there has got like the good stuff. Like they've got the big ones. There was a house that would always give away like full Snickers and stuff like that. They didn't have it for very long, but like if you got there, we made sure our route went past there as soon as possible to get that. But no, for us, I don't think a specific strategy on the candy. My wife is usually the one that picks that up when she's out at Costco or whatever and just gets the bundle. But we do. I mean, I'm wearing a shirt, the 12-foot Skeleton Club, which is representative of our household, which is in the front of our yard is a Home Depot 12-foot skeleton that is dressed up in various ways, and I have a cauldron that sits underneath his hands, and that's where we put the candy. So that kids have to come up to the big skeleton, gets to go in there, grab some candy. People always take pictures, and so that's usually how we do the Halloween stuff at our house. It's always a lot of fun. And then I always hide a speaker like up by a window so that it's playing some spooky music while the kids come up. The thing I haven't decided is one of the new purchases we made for the Halloween setup this year are these like grabby hands that are motion censored. So it goes like rawr, rawr, like rawr, 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 rawr. And I could put that right next to the candy so that it went off every time a child came up. But I feel like that's too much. I don't think I can do that, but I think I can set it up where the motion sensor is like goes surprisingly far, so that I think when people are approaching the cauldron to grab the candy, I can still set it up on the stairs and like spook them a little bit, but like from a distance, as opposed to freaking out some 3-year-olds. Oh, look at this.
Okay.
This is gorgeous. Oh, we are
here he comes.
Yeah.
There we go.
I love that.
Yeah, this is becoming something. And now he's gonna run around and terrorize the humans, I suppose.
That's so good. Yeah, don't even have to have it. Well, I guess you need I guess in order to publish level, you do need to put in an end state. So then you have to figure out what's the goal of the humans. Well, like when you play like Friday the 13th. Well, this Chris, you played this game. What are the different escape mechanisms in the Friday the 13th game?
Well, it's something like you have to pull a switch that opens a gate that gets you to the goal, or gets you to the road, or gets you to the police, right?
Okay. Can we get to a road? Can like there be a road past the house?
There could be a road. Yeah. I could make
And
a
then
road
maybe
in this.
it's somehow we move a gate, and then that's how we get out of here. It's like Jason emerges from the lake.
I see. Okay.
You run through the house.
Okay.
And then behind the house is a road, and then that's the it's simple and small, but we're trying to keep it
right.
Trying to keep this manageable.
And I could always
Yeah.
after work go in and do my.
Oh yeah, I feel like I've gotten in your head here.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing about when you start a stage is like, okay, now I got more ideas brewing, and now I want to like give it my go. That's like part of why I think we have very few stage creators, but I mean, in the core community, right? We have people that make like easy stages, quick stages, and then we have there's not too much in between. It's either like you see some smaller stages that are like generic humanity kind of puzzles, or you see these massive sprawling crazy stages that people come up with, right? With cool ideas and whatnot. But yes, let's make a road. We could even have a car. We could try to play Frogger.
I did. I wasn't sure how. I meant to suggest a car, but I wasn't sure how the car. I guess you'd have to sculpt it out of the blocks, right?
Yeah, we could use the motorized blocks.
We could do a car.
Yeah.
Motorized blocks for the car, yeah. I think you can even put the goal on top of the motorized block. So that the player actually has to get on top of.
Because ideally, then Jason Voorhees would be like at the edge, like staring as you go off, because that's like a classic part of the slasher motif is they get away, but like the villain is still there watching, and so he's like at the edge as you just get away.
We could do that. Yeah, I like that idea. I'm digging the creativity.
For sure.
See, it's so much easier when I don't actually have to build it, but I can just come up with an idea.
It's also easier to team up because then I don't have to think of the ideas. I could just go with it. We're a dream team here.
I didn't know this is what I needed, was just to be set up with somebody to do what I consider monotonous work.
Yeah.
But for you, it's I can just give you an idea and you can run with it.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, it's fun.
Now, I am mindful of the time, and we only said we were going to do 90 minutes, so I want to make sure we, while Austin is continuing on this, I want to make sure that we let people know where they can find you on the internet, Patrick, and where they can subscribe to Crossplay and all of that good stuff, listen to the shows from Remap Radio. So why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Yeah, you can, if you want to read my newsletter called Crossplay, which I sort of describe as a newsletter at the intersection of parenting and gaming. That is at crossplay.news or patrickklepek.substack.com. There all the sort of reporting that I do around video games and children and parenting. That's all free. Like, you get those articles just by signing up and becoming part of the Crossplay community. And then if you want you want to hear like the stories I've been telling here about like my children and them arguing over Princess Peach, like that's the kind of stuff that I write about for the folks that subscribe and help financially support, Crossplay being a meaningful part of my time. And I'm lucky to have a really good community there that's making that viable. And then, Remap is where I, talk about video games, about buying cars, about all sorts of other things. That is over at remapradio.com. We have lots of podcasts that we do every week. And then, as I mentioned at the top of the stream, we just relaunched remapradio.com, where we have lots of written stuff as well. That's by me and my colleague, Rob Zachney. We'll have other writers publishing pieces there in the near future. And there's a combination. All the writing about video games is public facing, so you don't have to pay anything to get those. There's also a free tier that you can subscribe to, so you can get email versions of those articles. And then if you want to hear like, hey, Patrick, we heard you just got a minivan. Can I see some pictures of it? Well, you sure can. And there's a blog post about like how cool it is for me to move the third row down and make it flush with the rest of the car. That's sort of like personal kind of bloggy behind the scenes stuff. That's the kind of stuff that you'll get if you subscribe. And we have a couple different tiers that offer different ways into the community, but lots of things from free to paid if you want to see more of the stuff that I'm up to.
Cool.
Fantastic. And you're on all the socials as well if people want to follow you on.
I'm everywhere. I'm
Twitter,
until they kick
Threads.
me off. I'm on Twitter and Threads and Mastodon and Blue Sky. And so I post most frequently on Twitter, and until they charge me $1 a year to do so, I'll probably post the most there, and then I think my next level of retreat is then to Blue Sky, but we'll see. But yes, anywhere that you are, I probably am as well.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to finish this level up and then publish it later today or maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds good.
The progress on this, I'm just amazed. Here we got a car, we got the road, we got the goal at the end of the road.
This is awesome. I am truly delighted. You will have to ping me when this goes live so I can check it out myself.
Any choice on the name here? I went with Hockey Masked Human, but we could.
That's
do,
great.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'll let you know if inspiration strikes, but I think that works just fine. Or maybe it could be like the Man in the Lake.
Here he comes.
Or there's an actual like spelling of like.
Oh.
But I forget exactly how it works. Oh, look at that! Look at that! Oh!
And there he is. He's standing there. There you go.
Oh, he's so mad. He's so mad. Why is
That's
that
funny.
house so big compared to us?
Right.
It's such a massive house for giants. That's fantastic. Thank you for bringing that goofy little idea to life.
No, that was fun. But yeah,
Absolutely.
we'll share that with you if you want to share it later. But
Absolutely. No, yeah, I'll definitely share that with all the folks who follow me. So yeah, pass
Cool.
that along, and I'll make sure to do so.
Will do. Yeah, and I want to thank everybody for joining us live, or if you're watching this on VOD, we stream community stuff every Wednesday. So we'll have a new stream next week as well, and you can join us live for that. We'll be playing more story mode, more community content. We'll be doing more stage creator stuff. So be sure to follow Enhanced Experience on Twitch, on YouTube, and you'll be notified when we're streaming. So thank you very much, and thank you to Patrick for joining us, and we will see everybody later.
see ya.